ready, allowing your eyes to open, your body to move however you'd like. So I thought that maybe a nice topic to start with and to talk about is this perspective that the Buddhist path, and perhaps all genuinely transformative spiritual practices, are an act of rebellion, are, as the Buddha put it, against the stream. He dedicated his life's energy to meditation. And after 7 years of intensive meditation practice, came to what he himself said was the extinguishing of the causes of suffering. Craving and greed and lust and always wanting life, to be different. The delusion that everything is permanent, how much we suffer about death and grief and change and impermanence, because we hold this mistaken view that it should not be so. As the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree on his mythological night of enlightenment, he was attacked by something that he called Mara. And it was greed, lust, and it was hatred, violence, and it was doubt and delusion. And he was victorious because he met the lust, the craving, the attachment with non-attachment, with releasing, relinquishing, letting go. But Mara never went away. This is why this is controversial, because people want to paint a picture of the Buddha as perfect, as someone who greed, hatred, and delusion was gone for forever. But it's clear to me, in my study, that the Buddha was calling greed, hatred, and delusion Mara. And Mara came back over and over and over to the Buddha. Mara didn't go away forever. He didn't no longer. Because that stuff continued to arise even in the fully enlightened dude. I believe that Mara is Buddhist analogy for part of our psyche. Maybe this is a very Western psychological interpretation. I could be guilty of that, but that's what makes sense to me, personally. So his awakening was, I think in the simplest terms, freedom from clinging and craving for it to be different, radical acceptance. This is the way it is. So I see his awakening as not unattainable, but really a psychological shift. Through meditation, of how we relate to reality. Perhaps what the Buddha was actually pointing at was not an eradication of the arising of jealousy. That this sort of craving for pleasure and aversion to pain is built into our nervous system and our psychological makeup. Part of what happens through intensive long-term meditative training is that you begin, rather than getting rid of these difficult mind states of something like greed or even hatred, but you begin to change your relationship to them. And hatred causes suffering. When we hate someone, and so you're angry at them, but you're actually burning yourself. And so he started to see, like, okay, that's just what we human beings do. But is it possible to start meeting the pain that we are angry about, that we are aversive to, with compassion, with love, and with forgiveness? Not that it's not going to arise, it's going to come, But the enlightened potential is to meet that anger as it's arising, the pain as it's arising, with compassion. Compassion doesn't get rid of pain, but it does end suffering, and it does end hatred. I'll tell you in my own experience of meditating now for about 22 years, that I started, and anger and hatred and lust was all I knew. And I did whatever my mind told me to do, which is really dangerous, as you probably know. Meditation began to allow me to change my relationship to what was arising inside of me. To begin to meet the pain with some compassion and some forgiveness. Not spilling it out in words or in actions. Not acting out of hatred, still feeling it sometimes. He said this path to get to this freedom is against the stream. Patiso tagami, this goes against the natural current of the human, what I interpret as the human survival instinct. We're born into these bodies that are wired for craving, for pleasure, in order to procreate, in order to survive. Our bodies love pleasure. And our psyche, has developed in this way that now we know, okay, if I have enough money, then I can have enough pleasure. And so then the craving for money, for abundance, becomes this survival instinct. I want stuff so that I can have comfort because I think that will make me happy. This is an internal rebellion against our survival instincts, in the sense of observing it so that it doesn't take control of us. Yeah, because we're not getting rid of pain. We're never going to get enough pleasure. But this rebellion against being driven by that survival instinct. But there are so many unpleasant experiences in our life that we can't avoid. Sickness, physical, emotional, unpleasant experiences. That the rebellion is not trying to push them away, but learning to sit with the pain in our lives. And learning to transform the aversive survival instinct into a compassionate, loving, forgiving relationship. It takes practice. It takes work. It takes training internally. And renunciation, not doing everything we want to do. Don't necessarily enjoy sitting still for hours and days and months in retreats. It's not always all that fun. But I know for sure that it leads to my welfare. I know for sure that it helps me change my relationship to my mind, to my heart, to my body, and leads to more and more happiness over the years. I have a very extreme life story, but certainly I didn't find it in drugs or in jail or in sex or in stuff. I looked really hard for happiness. Sometimes at gunpoint. What's going to make me happy? What I found was that this practice slowly brought the happiness, and not the happiness of material, but the happiness of an inner contentment. And this whole against the stream, like there's the tide, greed and hatred and delusion and our bad habits, and it takes quite a bit of effort to swim against a current. For a time, I'll tell you, the first 10 years of my meditation practice really felt like I was trudging against myself the whole time, pretty much. And I wasn't even sure how well the practice was working. For instance, forgiveness and loving kindness. I knew that mindfulness worked for sure. I saw my ability to bring my attention out of my thinking mind and to my breath. And that was a great relief, because my thinking mind was my enemy, full of judgment and fear and hatred. But to ignore it and feel the breath, such a relief. I think it's maybe also part of my drug addictive, alcoholic tendency. So really can be a blessing if you turn that kind of compulsive energy towards something positive like meditation. When I started meditating and I got the relief of mindfulness, it was like the first time I smoked weed. This shit feels pretty good. Kind of like this. And then my inner kind of addict was like, well, where's the heroin of meditation practice? And so 10 years into it, oh wow, now actually I feel a little bit happier. I like myself better. I forgive myself. I don't have so much hatred towards others. Even though for a long time, didn't feel like it was working very well. So the Buddha wakes up and he says, against the stream. That's how I got here. Let me formulate it. 4 noble truths. First of all, acknowledge suffering in your life. And not only acknowledge it, but embrace it. Know it fully. All of the ways that you're dissatisfied. Now, most of us don't want to do that. I don't want to look at how come I want to ignore that. I want to look at my dissatisfaction. I heard the Dalai Lama once ask the question, how long is this going to take? This Buddhist practice business. He said, but here's what I suggest. If you know that it's good medicine, commit to your practice and only check in on your progress once every decade. Every 10 years or so, do a little check-in. Am I more compassionate now? Check. Am I more comfortable in my own surroundings? Check. Am I able to be mindful more consistently? Am I more loving, more generous? Every decade, check on your progress. No quick fix, no weekend workshop, no 4 easy steps to enlightenment. A life's path, life's energy.